Come on, come on. Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night, 7:09 p.m. Central. We're all still alive. No red dawn yet. We're still waiting. And we got Jay McNicholas here with us tonight. We got our guest, the return of Dave Morris. Good to have Dave here.
Everyone.
One story I want to tell before we get started. There was this George Romero small 17-minute clip released of a movie that he was going to make called Giracondo Joe. And it was released recently by Pittsburgh, this college in Pittsburgh. And you had to do this code and go watch it and all this stuff. And there was a panel and they showed it. It was just 17 minutes. It was like this talk show. And they showed this clip and this, it was like a found footage. It was made in the 60s. He was going to make it into a whole movie, but he did Martin and something happened and he didn't do it. But he was going to have a buddy of mine, Al Going Back, OWL Going Back, in it as the native dude. And, well, it fell apart or whatever, but they tell the story about Al and everything at the college event that happened. Then they aired the 17 minutes. And it was cool to watch, but a little disappointing because it's only 17 minutes. And then they showed you the sketches of the Bigfoot and the Bigfoot, but the clip didn't have Bigfoot in it. It just had them freak out like there was a Bigfoot. So it's kind of disappointing in a lot of ways, but still cool. I wish he would have made the movie, that a George Romero Bigfoot movie. That would have been really cool. But anyway, I asked Al. I've been trying to get him on the show for a million years. And he's actually was friends with Scott Marlowe, a cryptozoologist from Florida, and they've appeared on panels together at cryptid situations. But Scott passed away, and he was friends with him. And anyway, I sprung the question on Al Going Back to get him on the show, and he's going to come on finally. I sprung the Joe R. Lansdale on him because he's friends with Joe R. Lansdale, this other author that was just on. So I name dropped and I got in there. But he's going to come on at some point, and we'll talk about the Ramiro stuff. And he writes these wild Native American horror books. One's called Crota, Crota. You should check him out. It's OWL Going Back, Going back, and he's got Native American horror. He's kind of, it's good. It's got, native. There's one called Coyote Rage where Coyote is the main character, and he's trying to destroy all humans and bring back the fur feather people to restore the beast on Earth and get rid of the humans. So it was pretty good. That was the last one I read, called Coyote Rage. So definitely a good one to check out. Well, Dave, good to have you here. Your YouTube channel is the Paralytical channel. That's Paralitical. If anyone wants to check it out. And you've been putting up different subject matter. And I know you did some documentaries because we watched the one on shadow beings. So just to give everybody a little background, what was the first thing that got you drawn into all of this?
I've always had an interest in the strange, the unusual since I was a young kid. And it just snowballed from there. Growing up, I was got interested in the Spawn comics. I started watching some horror movies. I started coming across some paranormal books. And just from there, I just had an interest in the subject.
It's always those Spawn comics, man. That's a crazy story in those Spawn comics. I'm hoping that movie gets made at some point by him that they've been talking about for 400 years. And then, did you ever see the HBO animated stuff? That was really good.
Yes.
That they ran short though. They canceled it or something stupid, but it was really good. It kind of captured the spirit for sure. And okay, well, one of the main videos we wanted to talk about, we'll get into some of your other subject matter, was Bram Stoker in the Occult. And I've read Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm also familiar with his living blood relative, Dacre Stoker, and have some of his books. I'd like to get him on sometime. But what got you tackling this subject, and tell us what was the catharsis?
Well, actually, I came across the novel and I started reading it. And when I was going through different chapters, I came across some themes of the novel that I picked up on that I read from like other like books and on different subject matters like black magic and the occult and all that type of stuff. I came across a scene in a novel where Jonathan Harker experienced sleep paralysis when he was at Dracula's castle. The three vampire ladies were going to go after him, and he experienced the paralysis sensation. He wasn't able to move, and Dracula had them go away. And then, was it Mina Harker? Or I forget which one it was. She went through sleep paralysis. And I was going to kind of talk about that in my video, but I kind of got sidetracked and I ended up not bringing it up. But I ended up coming across this Irish poet. He wrote a book. His name is W.B. Yeats. He was a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And in the book, he has a chapter about where he talked about himself attending a black magic ritual, and it sounded very identical to like stories of like vampires of how they need like blood in order to maintain and build up a form, and it just had me thinking of Dracula. And because Bram Stoker knew a lot of people within the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and he knew someone like Yeats, he was pretty close with him. He probably heard these type of stories of these black magic rituals, and it probably partially influenced him to write the novel. Not that there's not other reasons behind it, but that probably could have been some form of a influence.
I was just thinking of a question, and I had to verify that I remember reading this in the book, but maybe Jay can help with this one if you can't. Uh, in Dracula's first appearance, why did he have hairy palms? like, like that's one, that's true. And I remember reading that, and I was like, what the hell? But I had to look it up again on Google because I didn't want to ask it and think maybe I forgot or it came from somewhere else. And yeah, it's from there. So I was like, but so Jay, why does he have hairy palms? I'm trying to figure that out.
I don't know. A lot of the vampire lore is really based on the people of the time. They had little knowledge, or basically no knowledge, of the processes of death and decomposition. So um, most of the vampire stories are just boogeyman stories because they didn't realize that how the body changes through decomposition and the gases, and so in early vampire stories they're kind of bloated because when the bodies first start to decompose, the gases in your cells escape and the skin blows. And then in later versions, particularly Hollywood versions, he's frail and skinny and pale white. So it's just misperceived conceptions of what they look like.
And also, the gases from the body slowly decomposing would also release some fluid out of their mouth that people misinterpret as drinking blood.
Reminds me of the bell you can ring if you're accidentally buried and I forget what it's called. You get a bell when you actually get trapped in a coffin. They call it
Premature
something.
burial.
Yeah, and stuff like that.
Premature
But
burial.
well, I personally thought the hairy palms was choking the chicken situation too much, like the folklore goes, or the urban myth, or wherever that comes from. But anyway, next question. So, what can you tell us? What did Yeats write? He was just poetry, or was there any certain books that you can think
He
of? Because I
wrote
looked him up. I've heard of him.
he wrote a book called The Celtic Twilight.
The Celtic Twilight. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, where he basically talks about like different like lore and traditions. He talks a little bit about magic,
Huh.
some of his experiences in it, and he talked about this black magic ritual that he attended. I think in Ireland. I think it's
Yeah.
more in the early 1900s, and he met up with this guy who ran like a mill, if I remember correctly. He met at his house, and the guy was wearing like an old black robe. He had his whole face covered except for his eyes,
Yeah.
and they had like black candles. They did this ritual, and they pretty much sealed off and closed all the windows, all the doors. They dimmed all the lights except for this one dish. They would take different herbs and they would burn them, and that was the only source of light. They would end up taking a black hen and they would slit its throat.
Hmm. That book is the
It was
Celtic
the energy
Twilight.
of, they believed that. Yeah, that's the name of
Cool.
the book.
Again, Fairy and Folklore is the subtitle.
Yes.
I have to check that out. How old is that? That's old as
I think
Methuselah.
somewhere in
That's
the
pretty old.
1900s, early
Okay.
1900s, maybe late 1800s.
Sounds interesting. I'll have to check
A
it out
really
for
good
sure.
book, yeah. And so,
You've
yeah,
read? Have you read it? Have you read it?
I read a few chapters.
Okay, I'll have to
Yeah,
check it out.
I'm almost done finishing Dracula. I'm like probably like 2 chapters off.
Dracula's so interesting. One reason is
Oh, it is.
because he based it on Vlad the Impaler, which is interesting in itself. If you research Vlad the Impaler, that story in itself, and then of course one of my favorites is the Francis Ford Coppola Bram Stoker's
That
Dracula,
was a great film. Yep,
yeah,
loved it.
which was great at incorporating Vlad into the picture more, which made it so much better. Uh, so, what else do we know about Bram and the occult?
Well, he was very interested in this subject. He used to go to, I guess, the British Library, and he used to read like different like books and stuff, and used to get like manuals on different subjects. He read *The Land Beyond the Forest* by Emily Gerard, where he got some of his ideas for vampires. He was reading different books to come up with his character. He was getting different inspiration.
And then
And
I know the Dacre Stoker book. I haven't read it. I want to, but it's like kind of like a prequel. One of them that's pretty popular that he just put out, and it's like a prequel to Dracula, where Bram meets Dracula in some kind of tower or something. They're supposed to be making a movie about it or something, but I haven't read it yet. I have it. I'd like to read it one year.
that sounds interesting. Yeah, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, he's got quite a few. He's definitely been putting out a lot of Dracula stuff, but that was one that's actually did pretty well, I think, and they're supposed to be making a movie of it or something. I'd like to get him on. There's some other weird manuscript of Dracula they released called The Power of Darkness that Dacre Stoker released. There's a few weird things if you look him up and research that's pretty fascinating for sure. So what do we know about the template for Dracula? I mean, was it just Vlad the Impaler? Was there some? I've heard maybe some other stories that was. I mean, what did he get all this stuff from? It's crazy,
I think
crazy.
there's a couple of influences behind his character. Besides reading old legends and folklore of Romanian vampires, because that's what he read was on Transylvanian superstitions and Romanian legends. So he incorporated those beliefs. He incorporated Vlad the Impaler, and in my opinion, even probably what people that were in the Golden Dawn believed in as well, because he was pretty close to some of those. He was pretty close to some of the members, like Yates, and he even attended some of their conferences. So he probably got some ideas off of them as well about like blood rituals.
Cool. We have Michelle Desrochers in chat. She said that she knows Dacre Stoker and can give me the hookup. So, yeah, we would like that for sure. I tried to get him. I think that Powers of Darkness manuscript, I wrote the publisher and never heard anything back. So I've tried, but yeah, just let me know some info if you can, Michelle. Michelle's been on about Transylvania. She's been there. That was pretty interesting. It's on the archive if anybody wants to check it out. If you want to check it out, Dave. But she has a show and has been on a lot of TV shows and stuff. But I'd love to get Dacre on. I just don't know if he's in America or Europe, time zone stuff. I have to figure out stuff all out. But well, Bram Stoker, I mean, what other books has he written? There was some other one called The Guest or something, or Dracula's Guest, or wasn't there? What other books?
Dracula's Guest, Lair of the White Worm.
Okay, I have that movie with Hugh Grant in it, I think. Lair of the White Worm.
I think he wrote The Mummy. I think he wrote a book on a mummy.
I'll have to check it
I'm
out.
mostly only familiar with Dracula. That's what really stands out to me.
Yeah,
That's with
definitely.
millions of other people out there. But yeah, I mean, reading Dracula, I mean, it's a shame that the movies can't portray him like the way he's portrayed in the novel, because in the novel, he's a pretty sinister figure. He's very tall. He's got like, he's pretty much bald on the head. He's got a little bit of hair on the sides. He's got like sharp fangs that protrude out of his mouth. I think he was like close to 12 feet tall. He has red eyes, pale skin. I mean, to see something like that in a dimly lit room or in the dark, it's pretty creepy.
Yeah, for sure. And I know 12 feet tall, that's like Nephilim giants for sure.
He was
But
described as very tall in the novel.
yeah, I'd like to reread the original novel again, or maybe an
Oh, it's
audiobook
good.
at or sometime. It's
It's
been a
good. I
while.
I enjoyed it a lot.
A good movie. Did you ever see? There's a story of Nosferatu, of course, the silent film, and they kind of lost. They couldn't do it, but parts of it, the names of it, because of the rights and stuff. With the Stoker settlement, wouldn't let them, which to me was not a good idea. They should have let them because that thing went down in history as epic. But it's weird because we watched the silent one not too long ago. I watched it with Christina, and it still shows the names of people from the Stoker stuff in it. So, but I guess they just couldn't title it Dracula. They changed it to Nosferatu. I don't know, but have you ever see Shadow the Vampire with Malkovich and Defoe, Dave?
Yep.
That
Yeah.
that is something
William
else, isn't it?
Defoe. He's yeah. I like William Defoe. He's a good actor.
That one,
He definitely could pull off Nosferatu very well.
that is one of the. That's a great vampire movie. It's very creative, and those two, Malkovich and Defoe, you can't ask for anything better with that, for sure. You ever see that one, Jay? Shadow of the Vampire. You should get it and check it out if
No, I
you
haven't
ever
seen
do.
that one yet.
William Defoe is Nosferatu. John Malkovich is F.W. Marneau, who is the silent film director. And just to give you a little summary, the the vampire is real, and he promises the actress to it at the end if he does the play to, drink her blood. And it's crazy, and it's basically it's the filming of Nosferatu. While it's crazy, it's worth checking out. The dude that did his name's like Elias Merhurge. He does weird stuff. He did some weird movie called Begotten. That's just like this weird stop frame, slow. I don't know what the hell it is, but there's like rotten corpses and stuff in it. It's weird. But he's a strange dude for sure. Did some other one with Ben Kingsley, I think, Suspect Zero, with some weird serial killer movie that's really weird. But Shadow of the Vampire is his best work for sure. Stoker, I mean, did he go to Transylvania? Where did he find out about Vlad? Do we know? He just through history books, I guess.
As far as I'm aware of, he never went to Transylvania or anywhere near that area. He never been to Eastern Europe. He went to one of the big libraries in London, and he read up about Transylvania from like books. And he
Yeah.
tried to get an accurate description to write different scenes for his novel.
I saw something like a documentary on him that he had based some of that on somebody he worked for or an employee he didn't
Yeah, I
like or
heard about
something
that.
weird, like something like that.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I saw it in a documentary. I don't remember which one, but I'll have to check out some of Stoker's other stuff. I know recently Books a Million put out a little Funko Pop of Bram Stoker. Kind of a hard one to find, but don't go down that avenue of expression. Don't go to Funko Popville. You might not come back. So, supposed to be a movie with those things in it somehow at some point. But anyway, is there anything else that stands out that's in your video about him before we move on to something else that you'd like to share? Or
Yeah.
Was he a ladies' man? I don't know.
He was a vampire. He was a vampire ladies' man.
A vampire ladies' man. I know he's Irish.
But
That's about
it. But I think it's very interesting just to show some of the parallels between the character Dracula in the novel, and also the black magic ritual demons that would be summoned up. They both require blood in order to maintain a form. They both basically could possess people. When Yates was talking to this magician guy, the magician was mentioning that he saw the demon manifest in a black mist like form. And when he was staring at it, he felt as though this intelligent force was trying to get into his mind and control him. And he was fighting it through a battle of wills. And when the ritual was over, um, Yeats asked the leading magician, he said, well, what happened if I didn't fight it with my will? And the magician responded to Yeats by saying he would have just implanted his personality into yours, and your personality would have become his as a result. So basically, it would be like demonic possession in a way.
Someone said we look sleepy in chat, and maybe she's talking about Jay. I mean, I am sleepy. My sleep's been ransacked lately, like crazy ways. Like,
I am sleepy too. I got a cold, and I got cold meds on.
I talked to one of my bosses from where I work, and she had said that her sleep was weird lately, and she said that there was a sun flare and electromagnetic stuff going on. I don't know, but my sleep has been the weirdest ever. I'm not used to it. I don't like it. It's be crazy. Like it turning me into Norman Bates. But anywho, so Bram Stoker, I mean, he created a legend. Was there a story to where he didn't get like did his book become famous at first, or did it take a while?
I think when he passed away, it was probably when it started kicking off.
Was it one of those Edgar Allan? Well, Edgar Allan Poe had some popularities at first, but I know later I think his stuff got more known. But so Bram Stoker's, was it? So he did have luck with it while he's alive, or was that death? Which was it?
I think it was more probably when he passed away. It was probably when it started kicking off.
That's usually how it goes.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'd have to.
My memory serves me correct. I think it was when he passed away. But anyway, to get back into that black magic ritual, yeah, Dracula has a lot of commonalities with these demons that they would summon up. They both would need blood. W.B. Yeats talked about how the mist was trying to possess him, just like Dracula was known to do in the novel. He was known to mind control and take over people's minds. And
are you there, Jay? I think Jay's falling asleep right on there.
I'm here. No, I'm here.
Not because of Dave. He works at Home Depot.
Yeah, and like I said, I got a cold, and I've got cold meds on board, so they're
he's sick. He's sick.
Loose.
He's sick. But anywho, it happens. I'm tired. We're at my mother's now, and there's a lot of dogs, and I swear to God, this dog barks every time someone comes in the house who lives here. I'm going to kill it. I'm not, but it's driving me nuts. Like we're going to start spraying it with a water bottle or something. Like it barks every time someone comes in the house. And I'm like, will you tell my brother, will you stop coming in the house for a little while we're sleeping? Like we went to bed at like 5 or 6. All these places work us to death. But anywho, let's go on to the next subject. I went to bed at like 5 or 6 this morning, tried to sleep till noon, and I don't even know if I did. Like I usually sleep pretty good. Like something's off for sure. It's Ragnarok, baby. But anyway, let's get to a subject. Jay's tired from Home Depot. He gets tired every show. Not every show, but tonight he looks tired. What cold medicine are you on? On the good stuff. Robitussin.
NyQuil.
Yeah. NyQuil. Well, you should have waited.
Very flavored.
Well, do you have a question about Bram Stoker so we can keep you conscious?
I actually have I have a list here.
Oh God.
So the vampire legend started. There's 2 books before Bram's, but Bram Stoker's book really made it more of a a marketable character, I guess is the best word to look at it. But there are certain powers that have been attributed to the vampire. Many are Hollywood, some are not. So I've got a list of the different powers and attributes of a vampire. You can tell us which one is Stoker and which one is Hollywood. Do we do
Yeah.
that?
Okay.
Okay. So the first one I have on here is they can turn to gas, so they can go through windows and doors and other barriers. Stoker or Hollywood?
Stoker.
Really? Wow, that's in the. I wouldn't. That's a unique power that I wouldn't think would have been.
Stoker. I mean, there's some Hollywood films that have. There's some there's some movies that have him turn into a mist, but it's mostly Stoker is where you find that theme, and he got that off of some of the legends.
I think some of the the guy who played Count Dooku, his vampire could turn into gas. Flight, which I think mostly the only time I really ever saw them flying is in Fright Night, where the girlfriend starts flying through the window and what have you. So is that Stoker or Hollywood?
Flying?
Yeah, the ability to flight. Yeah.
That's Stoker, I think. Bats and stuff.
I think that.
Yeah, he could turn into a bat and fly. As for being like in a human form and flying, the only thing I remember is he would walk on a castle. He would walk very high up on the walls of a castle.
Yeah, that's on here too. Climbing walls. Yeah. So the flight is his human form. It's not. That's not Stoker. That's Hollywood.
Yeah, that's Hollywood. I think he would turn into a bat and fly in the novel.
Yeah, I have that on here as well.
One thing I want to say real quick, and me and Christine have discussed this, and I don't know if this is in the book, but in the Bram Stoker movie, as we know, he's so in love with Mina Harker. That's why he's going to London, I guess, part of it, the big reason and all this stuff. But he still stops and lace pipe with this redhead, so it's kind of confusing, with the werewolf scene and stuff. I don't know if that's in the book. Is there a sex scene with him and her, the Westra in the book, or is that something that Francis Ford Coppola got pervy with?
Coppola just put that in the movie. That was not in the book.
Figured. But go ahead, Jay.
So in super strength, they usually depict them as being super strong, and we know from the early legends, vampires are frail and or bloated. So the super strength, being stronger than a human being, is that a Stoker thing or a Hollywood thing?
Definitely Hollywood. I think I'm like 2 to 3 chapters off from the novel, so it might be more towards the end. I don't know, but I don't recall it being in the novel of having superhuman strength. But it's definitely in movies.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Now, the hypnotic gaze, are able to like capture your face or your eyes with their eyes and then hypnotize you. Is that a Hollywood or Stoker thing?
Hollywood, but the novel does say that he's able. The novel does say that he's able to entrance and get people to do things that he wants them to do, like Renfield is an example. And I think even was it Mina or who was the other woman that was in the novel? I think she had the red hair. Lucy.
Yeah, Lucy.
Especially when he bites them in the neck and drinks their blood. I think as soon as he does that,
they're under his power. But the hypnotic gaze is different.
That's Goligozy.
Yeah. And then they're able to change size, like not just they're in the same basic form.
They either get taller or smaller.
Right, yeah.
Is that Hollywood or Bram Stoker?
Yeah.
Probably a little more Bram Stoker.
Oh wow, okay. It's unusual. So far, we're 3-2, 3 for Hollywood and 2 for Stoker. And then controlling elements, like the weather and clouds,
the bat, the wolf, the wind.
Well, no, that's a different power, Jeff. That's a different power. So is that a Stoker or Hollywood?
Probably a little more Stoker. It's according to the recent Hollywood movies. I don't think vampires have these type of powers. I think if you go more to like some of the older films, they do, but it's mostly Stoker. I think
it seems weird that an undead creature would be able to control the weather, but we also know that they are able to control animals, and that I think is probably Stoker. But you tell us,
Stoker.
Is it really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Out of many different vampire movies that I've seen, I haven't really seen them controlling animals. I mean,
There's very few of them. I think The Lost Boys is one where they're able to control animals, which is a pretty good movie. And in Immortality, they're undead, and there are ways to kill them, but immortality, I mean, it would seem like if you're immortal, there's not a way to kill you, but there are ways to kill them by staking them to the ground, and you cut off their head,
chopping
put
their heads, yeah, and then burning the body.
yeah, you burn the body, you cut off the head, you stake the heart, and then you put communion wafers in the mouth, and that allegedly kills them. So is that an immortality? Is that a power that they have?
No, once you totally chop the head off and you burn the body, they're done. The vampire curse is over. However, some legends state that you have to be on the lookout for different like animals and critters that come out of the fire, because they believe that the vampire, when he's burning and getting ready to die, what he would do is he would shapeshift the insides of his body into different critters and animals to try to escape from being burned, to continue his hunt for prey.
That sounds kind of like the Gorgons of
what the vampire hunters would do is they would make sure no animal, if they would see like a deformed bird, or if they would see like a raven or critters or anything like that, try to leave the bonfire or the corpse was burning, they would grab it and throw it back in, because they believe that it could be a vampire. It still could be that vampire is trying to make its last escape.
Okay, so the immortality, that's a Hollywood thing then?
Predominantly, yes.
Yeah. And then the fact that the animals escaping the fire, it sounds kind of like the Gorgons of the Greek myths. But they were, if they were cut, their blood would spill on the ground and like create scorpions, and other weird monsters would escape from their blood dripping. Which is kind of weird. You mentioned earlier scaling walls, so I'm going to say that's a Stoker thing.
Scaling walls,
almost like a spider. They can climb up walls.
Yeah, like Spider-Man in a way. I think it's probably both.
It's both.
Probably both. Probably the novel and also some movies.
Yeah. Okay. I think he could do that. Yeah.
What I've seen in a lot of vampire movies is a lot of times they would have superhuman strength. They would go real fast.
Mm-hmm.
They would throw people thousands of yards away. I'm just throwing that out there. They would. What else would they do? They could jump real high.
Yeah.
Like Spring Hill Jack.
Yeah, almost like superhero powers. Some of them. Now, in Dungeons and Dragons, they're able to control undead. Are they able to control other undead creatures like zombies and whatnots in either Stoker or Hollywood? There's not a lot of movies where you see both, like a mummy and the vampires. A couple of them, but not many.
That's a good question.
I could answer it. I mean, if you got something to share, that's fine. But just real quick, when he bites them, they kind of become that. Like they start turning, and he's kind of got more control of them.
Yeah, this power is more of like undead that he doesn't bite. There's like if he comes across like a vampire or a wight or a specter, he can control them in Dungeons and Dragons. In the books, I don't think he is able to.
Dungeons and Dragons, Ravenloft, baby, that's right.
Well, in the novel, it does state something that when Dracula was mortal, he went to like a magic school up in the mountain, where the devil would manifest, and he would teach him. He would teach him the blackest of arts. You had to sell your soul, and the devil would give him immortality, and taught him the school of magic. And that's
Scholomance. Scholomance. Yeah. That's a very strange story that I've talked to with some other people on here that supposedly comes up with Vlad, doesn't it? Like some kind of devil's mystery school where a certain amount you go with 5 and leave with 4 or something weird. He teaches you the dark arts. Like I don't know what the root of all that Scholomance is.
So there's basically stories of Vlad Dracul attending that.
There's a weird Vlad connection to it. I don't
know.
I
gotta check that out. That's interesting.
I mean, it may just be folklore, or it may just be some crap somebody made up the Catholic Church when they were pissed off at him. I mean, I don't know, but there is something about it it's interesting. I've seen it come up in vampire books and stuff, and you do a little search on it. But
I was reading that he was a member of a secret society called the Order of the Dragon. I don't know if you heard about that.
Order of the Dragon. Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of that for sure. Yeah.
Maybe they incorporated those rituals.
Strange. I mean, pretty much his name means son of the devil, and these people are
Yes.
like, "Yay, son of the devil, we love you! Yay!" So they want him to come back. But I mean, he was Christian too, so yeah, he seems like he snapped at some point.
Well,
but
yeah, but as far as his personality goes, even though he may have been a tyrant, and he really wasn't a tyrant to his people, but he staked all those people's heads on pig poles and lined them up on like the
he had
walls,
to,
not the walls, but on the roads to his castle. He was really loved and revered by the people he ruled over. So
yeah, he had to
Yeah, I was
react
reading
to
that
the
those.
times, the
Yeah, I
times
was
he
reading.
lived in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was reading that there's a lot of Romanians even to this day that like him, that they see him as a national hero of their
mhm.
country. You got to remember something. He came from a time where his country like collapsed. There was massive crime, and they got to deal with the Ottoman Turks right across the border. They were trying to take him over. They were like a powerful empire at the time. They were like the ISIS of that time period that he had to contend with. And then he had a lot of domestic turbulence that he had to deal with as well. So, yeah, he had to be very ruthless. And then he came from a ruthless background to top it off. So,
Was in prison and was like a hostage and probably got molested or who knows what happened to him. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I'm sure he went through hell being a kidnapped hostage, or his dad put him there on purpose or something.
He wasn't
a,
kidnapped.
lo-
His dad sent him away with the Turks to
a, lo-
learn their ways, and
a
then
lot of the noble families in Europe, whether it was Western or Eastern Europe, they were pretty ruthless. They taught their kids to be pretty ruthless and cold. I mean, if you look at how Elizabeth Bathory was brought up, she was brought up to view the common people as just animals. You could dispose of them whenever you want. And she saw how they would whip them to death, all kinds of cruel, degrading punishments they inflicted upon their own people.
Yep, and I'm familiar with Elizabeth Bathory. I know she killed a lot of virgins and bathed in their blood, and I mean, that seems like it's a true story. It wasn't just like propaganda release for some reason. It seemed like, and then
No,
they
I
sealed
think
her in a wall.
I think most of the accusations against her are very true. I mean, when you read about medieval Europe, you read about the noble families, the aristocrat classes, they were taught that they were a separate race from the peasantry, which were a
Yeah.
majority of the population of that time period. They were taught that they
Yes.
were, it's almost like eugenics. You know, we're a better race, we have better genes than these other people do. Let's get rid of them, you know? That's
Yeah.
basically the same mentality.
Do any of y'all hear a background noise? I have an AC on. I just want to make sure. I doubt it's that
No, it
terrible.
doesn't
there's a
bother
little
me any.
buzzing. Yeah,
Is it loud though?
I'm good.
no, it's in the background.
But it's not terrible, right?
No,
It's livable. Okay, just making sure.
tolerable.
Usually I put it on fan, but man, it's fixing to be getting hot in Florida. I'm gonna have to have it on, so it seems okay. I'll listen to and make sure we're not when we do the archive and stuff. But so yeah, Dacre Stoker, definitely love to get him on at some point. And one thing I want to move to and is the you made a video about skinwalkers, and that's a creepy subject I like to talk about. But sometimes I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't want to talk about it because I don't want to have a skinwalker. It's just creepy, like on so many different levels. I just got this interesting book, and I would have loved to get one of these dudes on. I've interviewed one of them before, but Origins of the Gods. Quesum Cave, Skinwalkers in Contact with Transdimensional Intelligence, Andrew Collins and Gregory L. Little. And Gregory L. Little, we asked, she was going to ask, but he's not available right now. So Andrew Collins is in Europe. But I haven't read the part about Skinwalkers yet.
Oh,
But it's called Origin of the
I heard
Gods.
about that book. I saw it on Amazon. Looks really interesting.
Yeah.
Is that out now?
I just got a copy of it from Whatchamadoodle, Inner Traditions.
Oh, cool.
You know, you could probably work a gig to where you could say, write them and say you're going to make a video about it or something and mention it somehow, and you could probably score one. But just let me know if you need to do that. It's a possibility. It's how I operate. But they sent it to me. I would love to get Gregory R. Little on because I have one of his books. It's this book filled with the mounds from Native Americans all over America. and it's got them drawn out and everything. It's like this cool green hardback book that's just like got all the mounds of all over America from the natives and stuff in it. One day maybe we'll get him on. I got Al going back, so I'll be happy about that for the meantime. But the Skinwalker thing, did you read the Skinwalkers at the Pentagon? I got it, but I haven't read it yet. That new sequel to the column book and Nap book.
I actually intend on getting that book by George
Nap.
George
Yeah.
Knapp and Kellum, or whatever his last name is.
Yes. And I have it. I just need to read it one year, like a lot of books. But I'd like to read it for the world ends, but I may be running out of world end time. So, it's happening.
Hopefully it doesn't end anytime soon.
Yeah. It's just crazy right now on so many different levels.
Yeah.
But the Skinwalkers at the Pentagon alleges that some military personnel went to Skinwalker Ranch and phenomenon followed them home and affected some of the children. And that book's supposed to get into it, but I've had a guest talk about it and stuff. And thanks, Michelle. She said, great show. And so what the hell is a skinwalker? It's just so weird. It seems paranormal, like weird little evil Indian dudes or something. I don't know. I've heard so many different things, like from werewolves to little strange dudes in furs shooting spikes at you from like a blowgun or something. Like there's this Haas Loris. I've interviewed that guy. He had an attack, Haas Loris. But what do you think they are? Tell us what you know.
I think skinwalkers have derived from different sources. I think some skinwalkers are kind of like very similar to the subject that we talked about earlier. I think some are black magicians. At this point, I think it becomes more of a diabolic magic, because it's not just simply black magic. Now it becomes more diabolical because skinwalkers have to kill family members in order to be initiated. You have to kill like a sibling, a family
I've heard
member,
that.
a close cousin, a friend. You have to murder someone in order to become initiated, to become a skinwalker, and learn what is known as the witchery way, to cast spells and curses upon people.
You know too much about this subject. No, once I interviewed J.C. Johnson and he passed. He was a cool cryptozoologist. He died from pneumonia. It's really sad. But anyway, I did a written interview about this, and he mentioned the thing that you just said, that you're supposed to whack someone in your family to become one. And I've heard that before. That's creepy as hell. That
it is.
Somehow you do that, and I guess the forces of evil turn you into a mutant skinwalker for doing it. And I've heard weird stories about serial killers doing stuff like that for the devil and getting rewarded and weird stuff in his army and crazy stuff, which you don't know what's true or not. But I've heard that from JC and you and some other places. Definitely creepy that.
I think skinwalkers operate more like a criminal syndicate that just know certain things like psychedelic drugs and black magic rituals in order to do certain things that other people normally won't be able to do or function. I think another source for skinwalker stories comes from interdimensional beings who could shapeshift a lot into different forms. I think that's also where skinwalkers came from. To give an example, the Navajo people don't like to mention skinwalkers or have conversations because they believe it could draw them in. The same thing is said about the jinn of the Middle East. A lot of people in the Middle East don't like talking about the jinn because they believe it could bring them on.
I thought of those just now. The jinn, about kind of similar to skin, sort of. There's some kind of might be similar there. Yeah,
I think there's interconnection between different phenomena. I think in some cases they could be one and the same. They're just given different labels. But the skinwalker, I just think, is basically like a criminal syndicate. They operate like different syndicates out there. Like, for example, the mafia. In order to join the mafia, you have to kill someone. You have to shoot someone.
Yeah.
Whoever the higher up tells you to shoot, that's how you become a made man of the mob. You got to shoot someone, do what they tell you to do. Same thing with street gangs. Got to beat someone. Got to shoot someone. You got to show that you're willing to be blindly loyal to what the higher ups tell you to do. And so you see that very similar theme with the skinwalkers. To really show that you're willing to do whatever it takes to become a skinwalker and to do what you're told to do, you got to murder someone close to you to show that you're willing to break any conventional laws.
It's a neat comparison to mobs and the gangs where you have to kill someone to be initiated. To me, doing that would be something that would damn your soul, or the consequences of it could set back ascension kind of stuff, or evolution of your soul. Like you would say, oh, you killed someone, you're going back. So that's, that's my logic. Would try not to kill anyone. Not that I ever have, but that would be my big worry with doing that. Like, I don't want to be stuck here forever.
Oh,
I
but
want to
Jeff,
ride.
just to mention this real quick, the skinwalkers, like criminal syndicates, they would do like protection rackets. Like one would cause like a curse, or one would harm someone, and they would go to like an exorcist. The other exorcist, I'm not saying in all cases, but in some cases, the exorcist would be another skinwalker, and they would charge a fee to be healed, and they would split the profits. So they kind of operate like a syndicate.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Some of them could just be like, you think regular people that are just weirded out and went feral or something, or they seem kind of paranormal. Like maybe there's different types. I don't know, but it just seems something weird. Like
I'm,
I interviewed.
I'm
I
sure
know
there's
I
some.
interviewed. Have you ever heard of Haas Lors?
Nah.
He was on Coast to Coast, and he was attacked by him. He has a book, and he had a situation where he almost died. And his name's Haas Lors, LorrshOSS or something. And I know he was attacked by him. And I interviewed him a long time ago. That's definitely creepy. And I know Skinwalker Ranch, has a lot. That's why it's named that. And that's a weird place. I've seen the TV show and read the books and everything. And the stuff that goes on there is just crazy with the wounds and the radiation. Like I'm still trying to figure out the radiation thing. Seems like something's buried out there or something, or something. Have you seen that show, Seeker Skinwalker Ranch?
No, I do want to see it, but I haven't had the chance to
It's on
watch it
History.
yet.
I've seen the first season, but not any of the other ones. But I mean, those dudes on there are getting radiation poisoning and wounds and crazy stuff. Might be a warhead buried out there or something. But
And also think of what energy does to people's heads too.
yeah, very true. So, Jay, you got any S Walker questions? I used to say S Walker. I don't want it to hear me. I don't want it to
Can I
hear
ask a
me.
question real quick?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so what do you guys think a skinwalker is? Do you think it's like a person, an individual that could physically change his body into like another animal or an object? Like, what do you think a skinwalker is?
Well, it seems to me that they're kind of like lycanthropes or werewolves, but they change into other things other than wolves. In the Dungeons and Dragons lore, they got different types of were creatures. They got were rats and were boars and all these other weird animals that you're human by day, but when the moon comes up, they turn into these other creatures. But also, it seems like vampires can do that because one of the legendary powers, whether it's Bram Stoker or Hollywood, is that they can transform into like a bat, a cat, a wolf, and sometimes insects. So, who knows? I mean, it may just be like Jeffrey said. Maybe there's a bomb out there that hasn't exploded, and people are getting radiation sickness and just hallucinating these things. Who knows?
Yeah, but do you think if they shapeshift, do you think it's like a physical transformation, or do you think it's more like a mind projection? Like, how do you think they do it?
I don't know. The types of creatures that can transform, there are throughout legends. I mean, you got the Rakshasas in India, which are like were tigers again. We've not seen. The only creatures that actually physically transform are like moths and butterflies. They're a caterpillar one day, then they build a cocoon, and a week later they fly away as a butterfly. So it's possible, but without having any, scientific studies on a creature that can change shape from man to cat or man to boar or man to werewolf, I don't see how it's possible. I mean, something's going on there, and people see these kind of things. Like I said, either they are hallucinating and it seems to be that the skinwalkers are only in this small area. There rarely are skinwalkers talked about anywhere else, but in this place in Arizona. So maybe it's maybe it's mind control. I don't know. I honestly can't tell you.
How about you, Jeff? Do you believe that? So, what do you think skinwalkers are? Do you think they're people who can physically shapeshift their bodies into like another animal, or do you think it's more spiritual? Do you think it's like a mind thing? What's your opinion of this?
I think it's some kind of paranormal being or spiritual, maybe demonic. There may be weird dudes that think they're skinwalkers, like berserkers. Not to tarnish that by any means, but it could be kind of similar, like regular people who berserker out a little too much.
And some people believe that the Vikings came here to America.
Yeah,
there's
so
evidence of that. Yeah, they actually made it.
Might be some meth heads. I'm just playing. I'm just kidding. But no, I think there's something paranormal weird about it. For sure. There's something ain't right.
Well,
Little dudes running around in furs and shadows and shooting darts at you. Something's wrong in Denmark. Something's wrong in Denmark.
The legends of the skinwalkers may also come from somewhere else. I mean, you mentioned the Vikings that came here. The Vikings did get here. There's actual physical evidence that they were here. But even before that is the Homon people of ancient Japan, prehistoric Japan. And they used to use the Pacific currents, and they would make caravans of canoes. Some of the canoes would have people in them, some of the canoes would have goods in them, and they would go across the Aleutian Land Bridge and visit people in Alaska, Western Canada, Western U.S., Western Mexico, Baja Peninsula, western portion of South America, and then taking those same currents would go across the Polynesian islands from Hawaii back up to ancient Japan where they were from. And this is proven by the Human Genome Project, that the most native Indians in America, South America, Central America, they are more closely related to Japanese, Korean genome types than they are to Western European, Eastern European genome types when the conquistadors and all came over here. So some of those stories may have come from, because like I said, they did the whole circle around the Pacific Rim. They may have taken those stories of shape-shifting creatures, Rakshasas and so on, and spread it across the planet that way.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that I'm not saying it's not impossible, but I don't really believe in physical. I don't believe that people could change their entire mass and body weight into that of, like, say, like an ant or like a butterfly.
Yeah, I don't think you can change the mass. Maybe it'll change the same mass.
I don't buy that. First of all, you'd have to go. You would die.
Yeah.
You would simply die, because as soon as your heart stops beating, and as soon as your blood doesn't flow, you're gone. So you won't be able to shapeshift. It just won't be able to physically happen, unless if you have something that has godlike powers that's able to reassemble a heart, say like in a bird or something that you decide to turn into. But are you gonna retrieve your human memories? Like, say you, Jay, say you want to turn into a I don't know, whatever, a car or something. Are you going to be able to retrieve your memories that I'm Jay, I'm now a car?
Yeah.
No, really, probably not. But I think shapeshifting, I agree with Jeff, it's mostly something that's more paranormal based. When people do have experiences of other people shapeshifting, it's mostly due to drugs. It's very easy to get someone like on different drugs, make them think that they're seeing someone else turn into something. People are very suggestible when they're under drugs, like LSD, for example. The skinwalkers were known to use a drug, Datura, which causes hallucinations. I really think that's how they spread those legends. And they wear the skin of a wolf or a bear or something that they want to turn into, because that was the legends. In order for a skinwalker to turn into another animal, like a coyote or a dog or something, or a wolf, they'd have to wear that skin as a pelt.
Yeah.
They would cover their heads.
It
and
is interesting, the berserker, when you think about that and them.
and
It's kind
also
of
the werewolf legends of Europe. The werewolf legends of Europe, they would don the skin of a wolf.
there's some berserker
Yeah.
connections to that.
Mhm.
There was some weird story about Nazi werewolves. I don't know if it was a regiment or something creepy, but
Yes.
something.
Yeah, it was a regiment. It was a supposedly it was like a guerrilla warfare unit when the
Okay,
Nazis lost World War II.
okay, freaking Nazis! Bring out the bear Jew, but glorious bastards. But it's definitely interesting. Whatever they are, they're creepy. You don't want them to. Like I've heard some people say they only go after native people, but I don't know if that's true or not. But someone said that to me once that they kind of stick within the native. But I would think they probably go after whoever messes with them or whatever. There's just so many different things about them that, we don't know everything. That book though is supposed to have some revelations in it. The one I was talking about earlier by Andrew Collins and Gregory Little. So I would like to read that at some point. Probably just flip to that at first and then read the rest later. It's a big book. But anywho, one I wanted to ask you about, and I don't know who. I've never heard of this particular person. The lady looks like she's got a Day of the Dead mask or something. Tulahu Pucci.
Yeah, yeah. I struggled pronouncing that name a couple of times myself.
What is that?
I think it's pronounced the Talapucci.
Bless you. What is
Uh,
that?
it's supposed to be a folklore legend of a witch that was believed
Uh-oh.
in by the people of Tlaxacan. It's a region in Mexico.
Okay, Mexico. So it is Day of the Dead kind of looking stuff.
Yeah, well, I got that image because I thought it was a little creepy, and they could look like normal people during the day. So I figured, okay, nice creepy image of the Day of the Dead, face painting, put that on as the Talapucci. So I figured that was a good idea to do. But yeah, the Talapucci is supposed to be like a regular person by day, and at night they turn into one of those creatures. They basically, they could be males, but according to legend, they're mostly females. And what they do is at nighttime, they create like a little fire, I think outside their house. And what they do is they disassemble their legs,
Huh.
their feet and their legs, and they shapeshift into like a bird or a cat or a dog, and they usually go after like a target. Their targets are mostly infants, and they drink their blood.
That ain't right.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
For some reason, at first, I was thinking of that weird scene in Conan where he goes there and there's a sex scene and she turns into that thing like a succubi or something, and he kills her and throws her in the fire. Conan the Barbarian, but babies, that ain't right. Eating babies, we don't approve of that kind of behavior here
I
at the
mean,
Church of Mabus.
they pretty much target everybody. They target adults, anybody that displeases them. They target and they kill. They could basically, if you lock eyes with them, they could mind control you. They could have you commit suicide. They could have you jump off of tall bridges, buildings.
That's creepy.
And so whenever there was a suicide or something, people would blame it on the Telepucci.
So
As
suicides
being
would be
responsible.
blamed on this thing, and it would try to make people commit suicide. Wow.
They would release what's known as a Vahu gas.
Bahu gas.
It was like a mist.
Bless you.
And what it would do, and what it would do is it would knock you unconscious.
And then they kill you.
No, that's when they would target the infant.
Oh, so they knock you out with the gas and then steal your baby. Wow. That's not right.
There are some people that it doesn't work against. It doesn't work against,
like Batman.
it doesn't work against people that are known to have what's called a strong sight.
Strong sight. And this is all Mexican.
Yep.
Interesting.
This is in the region known as Tlaxcala.
Wow. So
That's
it can
what
knock
they
you
believe.
out with gas, but if you have the strong sight, the gas doesn't work on you. But the people that it does knock out, it steals the baby. What does it do with the baby? Is it eat the baby?
They believe that the blood. They believe that the blood tastes better when they're
That
infants.
ain't right.
No.
But how do you kill this thing?
Um,
Throw a d20. All right.
how to kill it?
You don't know. I'm trying to protect the babies. Cut its head off.
They would just. They used to have hunters. They used to target it.
Hunters? Okay.
I think iron bullets. I think kill it.
Iron bullets. Okay. Well, at least there's an answer. Jay, you got anything you want to ask? If you look through his channel or anything you see that
No, not looked through his channel yet. But so we talked earlier about some of the powers and attributes that vampires have, and we talked also about how they were originally perceived as either bloated or somewhat slimy, even in original legends and lore. But there's two other books that are written before Bram Stoker's, and oddly enough, another one, I think that's the second one, is written by another Irishman. So where does, because there are vampires in every legend, every culture.
Yep.
Where does the legend come from? Do you think that there's flesh and blood creature that these stories are coming from, or is it just simply that people are just so stupid that they didn't know the difference between the processes of death and the body bloating and then the gases escaping and it getting skinny again? What is the real story? Are there actual creatures out there that can suck energy?
That's a very good question. Honestly, I don't know for certain. I could only theorize. I could just make an educated guess as to where I think these legends came from. I think a lot of it has to deal with, believe it or not, I think the whole shamanistic traditions played a big influence on the development of the vampire beliefs. Mm-hmm. If you look at how, for example, the medicine man, like in Siberia, for example, they would get struck by lightning, or they would get like the flu or something, and they would go through a temporary death, and then they would have visionary experiences of being torn apart, getting their blood drunk upon by demons. Demons would drink their blood. They'd eat their flesh. They'd tear them apart, and they reassemble them, and they would become like a medicine man, and they were considered being resurrected from the dead. And they would have the power to leave their body. They could turn into different forms. They could control animal spirits, all ringing a bell. Yeah. The shaman could control animal spirits to do their will, just like vampires and legends can do. Mm-hmm. They could both mind control people. So I think that's where a lot of the vampire legends originally probably came from. I think sleep paralysis is another explanation for where they came from. People with serious mental disorders, mm-hmm. Premature burial is another source. Black magic rituals. I think there's many different sources that help build up the vampire legend that we're familiar with today.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I've ever. I mean, aside from like certain vampiric bats that actually drink blood, I don't think there's any creature that like just actually sucks life energy, whether through blood or energy. But it gave rise to several different new stories, many of which are in the Star Trek universe. In the first original episodes, they've got 3 different gas creatures. One is a vampiric cloud that attacks Ensign Kirk's ship, the Farragut, kills the captain and a bunch of his friends. And this cloud actually feeds on blood.
Oh, wow.
There's another cloud. It's in the Day of the Dove episode that feeds on fear and hatred and bigotry. And it makes the Enterprise pick up a bunch of Klingons, and it makes them fight to the death with primitive weapons, and they die. The cloud brings them back to life, and then they do it all over again until they realize, oh, we'll fight it with happiness and camaraderie. And then there's another one, which was the Red Jack cloud or Red Jack entity that it was able to possess human bodies, and they threw him back into the past as being the Jack the Ripper. The reason why we couldn't catch Jack the Ripper was because he was this energy being that was able to jump from body to body, doing all the killings in London. And then the thing jumped through, once man went into outer space, jumped through different solar systems, to become this interstellar vampire women killer. So a lot of cool things have come out from the original Dracula book. But hands down, what do you think is the best Dracula story that's not Bram Stoker?
That's a good question. Oh, Carmelia.
There's a lot of them out there, yeah.
Carmelia.
Which?
Carmelia.
Cornelia. Okay.
Carmelia. I've heard of that. That's
Yeah.
like a chick on chick vampire thing.
Lesbian vampire.
Yeah,
I
heard of it. It's a movie, right?
It's a novel.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
There's also a movie
written by another Irish author.
Oh wow! Yeah.
What's the name? Do you remember?
I think his name was LaShawn. I can't pronounce it.
I've looked that book up before. There's a movie too. I tell you, if you haven't getting into the Hammer films with the Dracula stuff and all the Hammer movies, I collect them. I collect them as I can. I have a lot on DVD, some on Blu-ray, but I even have some little Hammer figures from Mezco they put out.
Did you see The Devil Rides Out with Christopher Lee?
I've seen Great that. Film. Yeah, that's really good.
That was a good movie. And also Horror Express.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with those Hammer films. Those are British productions. They're just amazing. Christopher Lee and
The Satanic Rites of Dracula was another good movie. He was in.
I need to get into those more often. There's nothing like them. They're beautiful, 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 beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I love them. My favorite vampire story is the Lost Boys. I think that's one of the best retellings of the vampire legend and myth. Michelle on the chat room said something about some people feel that vampires are an actual race of ETs. I'd like to get your opinion on this on the air because we did talk about this before the show. There's the movie Life Force, where like space vampires come through Halley's Comet and they send a space shuttle out to retrieve them, and they bring the spaceship back to Earth, and it creates a bunch of undead zombies in London. But you guys think it's based on a book. I think it's based on a top secret Apollo mission, Apollo 20, which was supposedly never went into outer space. But there's some very intriguing evidence and some really creepy video on YouTube that they went to this spacecraft that's crashed on the backside of the moon. Since the moon is tightly locked, we only see one face of it as it goes around the planet. So on the other side, there's this mile-long spacecraft that allegedly we sent some NASA and Air Force personnel to go investigate. And what they found was two human-like creatures with kind of like dreadlocky hair, kind of looking like the Anunnaki, that you see in pictures from 6000 BCE Sumeria. And allegedly, they brought these creatures back to Earth. One of them they accidentally decapitated, trying to free it from the equipment that was attached to it. They freed a female. It was a male and a female, like pilots or occupants of the vehicle, and they brought him back to Earth. And the woman allegedly came back to life. So I'd like to know what you think of your opinion about that paranormal, that paranormal parallelogram, as it were, to the Life Force and the book that Space Vampires comes from, Life Force. What do you think it is? I think it's more like the NASA thing is what got the idea going.
Okay, so you're basically asking, do I think vampires come from ETs?
Well, no, I guess so. Yes. So there's no evidence that says that the bodies they recovered on the moon were vampiric in nature. The story, I think, comes from the Apollo space mission. It's this top secret mission that never went out, at least not went public. But Hollywood has been part of a UFO alien desensitization program since way back when, since early times. And I think they're disseminating information sometimes in really weird and creepy ways sometimes. So you get things like Life Force. You get these lightning vampires. I mean, they basically suck lightning out of people's faces and turn them into walking zombies. Yet at the same time, there's strong evidence that a mission went to the moon and brought back creatures that had been dead 1 million years. And when they brought it back in our atmosphere, they came back to life. So what do you think about that? Is the possibility that a vampire is another outer space creature, or is that just sort of hogwash?
It sounds like you're describing the Mothman in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Maybe that's where the Mothman originally came from.
I'm sure there's vampiric alien type beings. That wouldn't surprise me. There was some other movie by Mario Bava or something called Space Vampires or something weird like that. Like some old Italian dude that made a vampire space movie or something. So, wouldn't surprise me.
I think
Something.
I think the whole UFO abduction phenomenon is very interesting. I could definitely see some parallels with the vampires of legends of the lore. They both come at night.
Mm-hmm.
Both the abductee and the vampire victim usually has vivid dreams. They usually wake up exhausted. Um, Illnesses usually break out on both sides. The abductee gets like different types of illnesses. The vampire victim usually gets like a serious illness. They're both drained of energy. They both take blood samples. One takes it for experimentation, supposedly. The other takes it for substance. But the parallels are pretty much there. They both could come in animal form. One does it through screen memories, the other through either shape shifting or through getting the people's minds. But there are some similarities. They both feature balls of light. Both the vampire and alien abductions, you'll see balls of light. Poltergeist phenomenon breaks out in both cases. So there's a lot of similarities. In alien abductions, the alien will cloak himself as a dead relative to visit their loved one. Doesn't always have to be animals like owls, for example. And that's another favorite form that a vampire likes to take on as an owl in legend.
It's
So,
definitely interesting. One thing I want to share is I've told this story a million times, but it relates to what I need to tell. At 17, I had went through testicular cancer and chemo, and I read those Anne Rice books, and I went into them. I escaped into them. I'm fine now, but when I went back to school, people called me a vampire. I was pale. I was bald. I got called Powder too from that weird movie from the pedo guy. But Powder is actually a good movie, but unfortunately, the guy that made it from Jeepers Creeper is a child freako. But I got called that. But anyway, the point is, it's almost like I took on like the vampire is something energetic, and reading those books. It's like I took it on, It's like something in the imagination, something that's etheric. There's something to it. That's crazy. And when my dad died, I got a Dracula tattoo. Like, and he's carrying his bride, and went cuckoo when my dad died, but but I got a wolf too that from the same guy. But it's like I took on the qualities of it in some way, and people said that you're a vampire or whatever. But there's just something about it. They're making that new Interview with the Vampire show on AMC. They released a trailer. I'm hoping it's good. I mean, it seems like the plot and the scenery looks really good. I just don't know about the actors yet. But we'll see. It was a shame that she passed not too long ago and couldn't see it in fruitation as well. But she really did a lot for the vampire situation. I've read. There's only a few of those Vampire Chronicles that I need to read. The last few, but I know in one of them, and someone told me this, but I haven't read that particular one yet. Somehow she connects them to aliens, which I was like, what? But I'd have to read it to see it. But it's one of the last few that she did, somehow a connection to ancient aliens. So someone told me that. So I don't think the person lied to me. I just haven't read that particular one yet. But I was kind of like, what? But there's something weird mythic about it, something mythic. That's the best way to describe it. But are there real vampires? Maybe. Probably. There are people that think they're vampires. I have a DVD back here of all these people. Michelle Bellinger and another guy that's been on my show. He did it as well. And Corvus Nocturnum. It's a whole DVD, and they think they're vampires. I've had Father Sebastian on, who says he's a vampire and makes fangs and has weird parties, and who knows what goes on there. But there's something to it, something to the energy of it that's real. no matter which way you look at it. Even if you don't think they're vampires, but there's something about that energy. Just saying the word, there's just something about it.
Well, not just about the energy. I mean, think about it. There's immortality involved, and there's shape shifting involved, and flying, and you can uh, turn into cats and dogs. One thing I find interesting, and Dave, you might like this. Goes back to D&D. My friends and I used to play Dungeons and Dragons every Sunday when we were in college. So in Georgia, you have to buy your beer on Saturday because if you don't, you can't buy it on Sunday. We played every Sunday, and the guys I played Dungeons and Dragons with, they left my cleric. I was the healer of the party. I would make sure they were all full hit points and ready to go for battles. Well, after we fought a dragon, and I'm the one who like stunned it by falling on it from 200 feet up, they left my body in a pit for like a week, and so I was kind of pissed. So from that point on, anytime they wanted healing, I made them pay for it. You want healing? Whatever many points they give you, that's how much gold you give me. So, boom, they're 10 points, $10 in gold. It's not soon after that we encountered a vampire who came after me first, and she turned me into a vampire. And she said, "I want your friends. Bring your friends into the fold." So I'm like, okay, let me go after him. So to get my most powerful ally was my friend who played the paladin. So I turned into gas like vampires can, sneaked into his tower, floated over his bed, and then he was asleep. And just before I attacked him, I turned back into a corporeal person, and I told the dungeon master, "Well, I want to land on him. I'm going to grab him, and then I'm going to suck his life force until he dies." Because the vampires in Dungeons and Dragons, you don't have to bite; you can just touch and suck life force by touching them. And so I landed on him. He wakes up. I grab him by the hands. He's like, "Wait!" And I go and sucked all of his life force out and turned him into a vampire. So he's now my minion, and he's super powerful. And we went out and got all the other parts of our party, except for one of them who was a chicken, and ran away. He lost his abilities as a cavalier, but make a great movie. They never did this in the movies. I mean, the guy you turn into gas, you float in over the body, you turn real, you land on them, boom, they're dead. He always comes to corporal form first and then attacks. Why? That's the dumbest thing ever.
Jay misses Dungeons and Dragons so much.
It's a fun game, but if you look at Hollywood, I mean, I did this in a role playing pen and paper game. I killed my best friend and turned him into a vampire. But in every movie, even if he doesn't use the gas power, he walks into the room. The person he wants to kill is asleep. He wakes them up, looks in their eye, and then bites them. Why not just attack them while they're unconscious? I don't get it. It makes no sense. You have all these strange and wonderful powers, and you don't use them.
Some people like challenges.
If I was an undead vampire, I think I'm going the easy way. I'm going to turn into gas. One time
I did a Ravenloft game, and it had Strahd von Zarovich, and I put Billy the Kid in it because I think that's when Young Guns came out. This is Weird West at the same time with Ravenloft. But that was when we used to play in my jammies all night. I haven't played in a long time. I would play again if I could. There's ways to do it online now, and I don't know how, but there's ways you can do it. But I usually get the fix through games, but it was definitely one for the imagination. There's a Ravenloft board game, but Ravenloft is pretty much like a horror universe in Dungeons and Dragons with vampires and Frankenstein and all this stuff. It's pretty cool. They're actually about to put out a comic of Ravenloft, which
really? Wow.
Yeah, they have some good D&D comics. I got some recently just to try to get into the nostalgia that I missed, and I saw that there was a Ravenloft comic coming out. So it's not out yet, but it's definitely coming out. And it's like kind of a weird Frankenstein kind of weird story, I know for sure. But let's see. I know you talk about visitors and invaders in some of your videos. Is visitors aliens, or what's the difference between that?
Oh, some of the videos I did, I would just document people's experiences. It could be whatever interpretation people want to put on it. Could be aliens, could be demons. Some of them appear to be more aliens. Like people would report the Greys, but even people debate as to what the Greys are. Are they from Zelta Reticuli? Are they from Hell? Are they servants of Satan? People have different interpretations they put on these creatures. So I'll leave it up to each viewer to make that decision with what they think they are for the videos. I'm just recording other people's experiences on some of the videos. Like when I do a creepy strange stories series, it's just based off of other people's experiences. Now, when I do monsters of folklore, when I do those series, I'm basically documenting different monsters of different traditions that people believed in.
The classic MGM monsters.
Yeah, what's MGM monsters? Oh, you mean
Mummy, Wolfman, Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Yeah.
Not even Universal. More like different, like say like the Chinese or Japanese or like England. I'll bring up different monsters that different cultures have believed in the past. Like I've done like a Mexican monster. I've done a monster based in Germany, the Alp. I have done different characters. I'm going to continue to do to basically do more of them. I'm gonna do I'm gonna end up doing a segment on the Jinn coming up soon. I'm gonna also do one on the Papa Bala, which is in Tasmania. It's a monster that people believed in there, and I'm gonna do plenty of series coming up.
You gonna do a Bigfoot?
Maybe somewhere down the road. Not currently, but
why?
I'm sure I'll be getting on the Bigfoot sometime in the future.
Why you no share no love to Sasquatch?
I don't know. I just he's too big for me right now. He's too big. He's too big. I gotta grow myself to reach his height.
For sure. Jay's seen a Bigfoot. He saw one looking in a window at him once. He's seen a real Bigfoot.
I believe it.
Real close too.
Yeah. I've seen weird aliens, but not a Bigfoot. Why do Bigfoot's not saying, well, I always say, why do Bigfoot show themselves to Republicans so much? And I don't know what it is, but they don't show themselves to me.
Trump.
They love Trumpelgooch. I hope not. But they usually show themselves to dudes that want to shoot them. It's like, maybe you should change your repertoire.
I don't think that's true, because if they did, they would have been shot already.
I don't think they can be shot. But
I think they can.
I don't. Jay thinks they're physical only. I don't. I think they're paranormal, like skinwalkers. But who knows? But unless you're Kawani Leporitis, who claims he hangs out with them and gets shoulder rub massages.
That could very well be both.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's it. Let's hear your theory on both. I've said that too before. Well, let's hear some more on that, Dave.
The Bigfoot could be both metaphysical and just flesh and blood creature. Could be both.
Very true.
Yeah. Even when you read some stories of like demons, if you read about infestation encounters, there's been reports where people will smell sulfur and they'll see a big, gigantic, hairy creature with like red eyes or no eyes, which sounds like Bigfoot.
Yep. And that's possible.
Do most Bigfoot encounters, do people smell like sulfur or something like that, or not?
Yep.
Sometimes people don't really know how to describe the smell. It's kind of like a combination of skunk weed and feces, and it's really nasty. I mean, it's a kind of smell that once you smell it, you will never forget it. And I only smelled this creature, saw this creature 44 years ago. They smell really foul. And you will never forget. It doesn't really smell like sulfur so much. People have described, like when creatures teleport or change location dramatically, they smell sulfur. Now, in the Blue Planet Project book, which is a book basically that they say they smuggled out of Area 51 that has 160 different species of aliens written in it. there is a creature that is very Yeti / Bigfoot like, kind of, I guess, almost like a Chewbacca type creature, a Wookiee type creature that uses technology. They travel around in spaceships. They go from galaxy to galaxy or planet to planet, whatever. Um, and if they had some sort of transportation technology, like the transporter from Star Trek, or maybe some sort of cloaking devices like the Predators do from the Predator movies, I think that's probably where those stories are coming from. The Bigfoot I saw, if he had that technology, why didn't he use it? He ran away from us, and we were actually able to follow his footsteps the next day into the woods until he crossed the creek and we lost him. So it was no question a physical, real, in this time frame, flesh and blood creature. Now, the ones that disappear in front of people's eyes and that are associated with UFOs, most Bigfoot sightings are not associated with UFOs at all. This is more a recent thing. So I'm thinking the ones that are associated with UFOs are these kind of Star Wars Chewbacca-like things that uses space technology that are able to teleport from one place to the other or mask their bodies with, cloaking technologies.
Do you think Bigfoot is the species known as Gigantopithecus?
They're either an offshoot of Gigantopithecus or an offshoot of Australopithecus. One of the two. Gigantopithecus is a gorilla that was somewhere on the order of 14, 15, maybe even 19 feet tall. The one I saw was at least 13 feet tall, at least. So the Bigfoot we have nowadays are probably a smaller version of Giganto or Australopithecus. Yeah, I think they're a Pithecine creature.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to that idea that some of them could have survived for like millions of years. I mean, I'm not an expert on the subject, but there's no reason not to believe that it's possible.
There are several other prehistoric creatures that I'm sure have survived through the cataclysms. The plesiosaur is probably what the Loch Ness Monster is. An Stegosaurus or a Brontosaurus is probably what Mokele Mbembe is in Africa. Some of these creatures escaped this extinction by either changing their feeding habits or changing their natural habitats. The coelacanth is a fish that was 65 million years ago, thought to be extinct. What is it, 1930, 1932? This guy finds one with some people, I think, in the Pearl Islands out in the Caribbean. They catch a coelacanth because the coelacanth was a long, like 8-finned fish. It has a lot of fins on it. And so it's a pretty fast swimmer. It's a hunter. So in order for it to survive, it had to go deeper down into the ocean to change its habitat and its feeding habits in order to adapt and survive. They still exist, but until we found them in the 1930s, they were on the extinction list.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, when you look at cases of like Bigfoot and all of them, you wonder if there's been like a massive reduction in their population levels from how they once were. There had to be. There's no way that they're surviving in the same numbers of how they did like millions of years ago.
I disagree, because the vastness of our planet is water. 7/10 is water. And then you have of the 3/10 that are land, at least 60% of it is dense forest. We have zero or little access to. And on top of that, particularly on the North American continent, there are 2 vast cavern systems that go from like Florida to Maine and from like Baja California up to Seattle. And it's suspected that they're using these cavern systems to travel, possibly to live in as communities. And it's a moving community. They follow their food. And they eat elk and deer and stuff like that. So when any of their animals that they hunt move, they follow. And so they also avoid contact with humans most of the time. So if you're an intelligent creature, you know that there's these cavern systems you can hide in. You can use them to travel from Florida to Maine. Why wouldn't you be able to keep yourself hidden?
Interesting point.
Well, when it comes to Bigfoot, there could be the live ones that are physical, and then the rest could be ghost Bigfoots.
Maybe.
Possible. Caveman ghost.
Caveman ghosts.
That's what it is from the Geico commercial.
I'm surprised there's no reports of people seeing caveman ghosts.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, there's Civil War ghosts that people report seeing, but you don't hear nothing about like cavemen like ghosts.
Yep, I know. It's something.
Unless if it is Bigfoot.
One of my biggest worries is when you croak, you just stay here as a ghost in your house or whatever. Wouldn't that be terrifying forever? I don't think that's
Or
true
maybe you come
based on
back
my
as a Bigfoot.
experiences. Yeah, you come back as a Bigfoot. But
And you have to hide.
one of my big experiences, beings of light. I've seen them many times. I've seen them fly through the heavens completely sober. I've seen two leave my house, people made of light. And shamans call them luminous ones. I've seen them with my naked physical eye. For a
I think
while,
that's where
thought I was croaking, but I didn't. So
I think
go
that's
ahead.
where a lot of the paranormal phenomenon comes from. Is these beings of light, these orbs of light, this energy that people report that could take on different forms, or it can get into people's minds, and people could hallucinate based off of cultural expectations or subconscious memories. People could use all that and build up a hallucinatory form of what they think they're perceiving.
Yes, and then there's Ron Howard's cocoon, the old people in the swimming pool, the beings of light. Opie did some shrooms, and
He
but
grew up in the 70s. Why wouldn't he?
yeah, for sure. You know they're making a Willow TV show on Disney.
Really?
Yes, it's
Cool.
coming. Hey, I've been checking out Moon Knight. It's pretty good on there. If you
Oh
haven't,
yeah,
yeah,
got to check that out.
it's good. And what's so good about it is it ties in all the Egyptian gods in the pantheon, and they're in it, and it's awesome. Like it's really good. There's cool music too. Uh,
Uh,
Ethan,
what's his name? Kanoshnu was the moon god, I think, is who they're
yeah,
having.
and Ethan Hawke is like the villain, and he's trying to resurrect the crocodile chick. Like he works for her. He walks on broken glass in his shoes. Like he puts broken glass in his
Yeah,
shoes.
that's weird.
Yeah, have you seen it
Yeah,
yet, Jay?
I'm a couple episodes behind, but yeah, I saw the first one.
There's three, I think, now, but
Yeah.
it's pretty good. They're supposed to be doing a Werewolf by Night on Disney, that old comic. I was looking those up, the comics Werewolf by Night and Tomb of Dracula and stuff like that. Those get expensive, so but there's omnibuses where you can buy like big ones. They actually made a imitation of Tomb of Dracula facsimile issue, which where they replicate the first issue and re-release it. I grabbed one of those, but yeah, Moon Knight's really good. Here's an interesting one that I haven't watched yet that just started on Amazon Prime with Josh Brolin, Outer Range. And it kind of looks like a Skinwalker Ranch situation. It's a show, like a fiction show, but it kind of reminded me of Skinwalker Ranch, some of the crazy stuff going on in it. That just started on Amazon Prime today. Comes out 2 episodes a week. So I'm going to check that out at some point. It looks pretty good. It's got Josh Brolin and a bunch of people, but it has all this weird stuff happening at his farm. So that should be interesting for sure. So what is your dream video to do next, Dave, or a documentary? What are you going to do?
Oh, I got so many. I'm going to work on Stephen King's It. I'm going to be doing a video on that because I read the entire novel. It was over 1,000-page novel. It was very good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a video on that. I think it's going to be very interesting to get my input on that.
Yeah. Are you going to bring up the weird kid scene? I always hear people bring that scene up where they de-virgin themselves so they won't die. That's probably should just avoid that. Yeah, that's a creepy one, but that's a strange part.
Let's just say that Pennywise, Bob Gray is also another name for him. Has some connections to some paranormal phenomenon and stuff that we've been talking about. Even though it's a fictional character, you'll see some pretty good parallels. But I'm
Cool.
going to explore more of that in the video that I'm going to be making about that topic.
Cool.
So yeah,
Definitely.
I'm going to be doing a video on it. I'm going to be doing a video on like serial killers and the paranormal. Be doing themes like that.
What
I got
serial killer? What serial killer? Anyone in particular you like?
a couple of serial killers going to be doing a video on. It's going to be I might title it "Serial Killers in the Occult." Is what I might title it. I'm going to put like Elizabeth Bathory in it. I'm going to put H. Holmes,
That's a
the
creepy one.
Chicago serial killer. There's some connections with him and the devil, as he believed.
You heard of Jeff Mudgett?
Yeah, isn't it his great grandson?
Yeah, yeah. I've had him. I've interviewed him. He sent me his book signed and stuff. That's some creepy. H. Holmes creeps me out.
Yeah, they think he was the Jack the
Jack the
Ripper.
Ripper.
Yeah,
I think it's very possible that he was, because they both used very similar language in their letters, and they've
yeah.
analyzed. They have forensic experts analyze their letters, and the writing was very identical, the style, and even the way they would address people.
That's what Jeff says.
Yeah.
He's brought it up in that show he did, American Ripper. It was on
Yeah.
History Channel. But
In the
there
time
is some
frames line
creepy
up.
things. There is some creepy things. I don't know for sure, but it's possible.
Well,
There's some,
people,
The time frame lines up. There's the times when H. Holmes was in London, the Jack the Ripper killings are going on. When he's not in London, they're not going on, and they're happening in Chicago. So
the
I mean,
History
you
Channel had a
have people.
special on all of this. It was I was watching one of the a few episodes. It was interesting.
they're doing a Devil in the White City, and it was supposed to have Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio involved in it. I hope they're still doing it.
Yeah, they should.
I pray. I meant to read that book, but I never did. I need to.
Yeah, reading about his murder castle, it's very identical a little bit to even like some of the Saw series, with like the booby traps and trying to survive and all that. He did the same thing. You know,
Lock, lock people in a safe, and you're there in that safe. You're gonna die. That's terrifying.
no,
Just
but
locked in there.
he didn't lock everybody up in a safe. Some people, he would just use a key and lock the door. And if someone was able to kick the door open, there was a cord that connected to his main office, and the cord would ring the bell. And what he would do is, if the person would escape the door by kicking it open, because the hotel was structured like a maze, you know, people would get lost. They go through dead ends. They open up doors. They'll go up steps. They'll lead to nowhere. And because Holmes knew the construction very well, because he was the designer behind it, he was able to locate his victims very easily and know his routes around the place.
Yes.
Whereas the victims didn't. So they're easily to be preyed upon if they happen to escape their entrapment. But he used to, if you open up a door, you could fall to your death. He had different traps he used to put throughout the hotel.
Yeah, and you got to be an absolute OCD nutcase to have set those booby traps, and then to be able to walk through there without setting them off. Remember them. For me, I would eventually forget about one, and I'd fall through a hole in the wall and break my leg, or walk into a cat of nine tails or something that slaps me in the face and rips my head off. So that, to do that, you got to be extremely aware. So it's weird that somebody would do something so elaborate just to kill people.
Well, what was crazy about him was when he constructed that murder castle, his massive hotel, he would hire construction workers, and then he would fire them, and he would hire new ones, so people couldn't pick up on what he was building, on what he was planning on constructing the building for. There's a gigantic murder factory.
Well, because there's hidden passages in there, and the way to keep hidden passages hidden is one construction worker builds this part, he goes away, another construction worker builds this part, and then boom, you have hidden passages. So I guess in that respect, it's kind of cool, but with all those booby traps, it's just you got to be vigilant.
But to get into the paranormal a little bit, and that's if you believe his testimony. And I honestly, I think he was telling the truth because he was going to die anyhow. People absolutely loathed him. So unless if he's a pathological liar, which he could have been, there's no reason for him to make this up. And I'll tell you guys why I believe he wasn't shortly, why he wasn't making it up. He claims that when he looked at himself in a mirror, he would see his face. He felt the devil go into him. That's how he described it. He felt this great evil go into his body, and then he would see his face morph. It would elongate. You'd see like scales, and it would morph into more like a demon-like face. That's how he described looking at himself in the mirror. And he felt this compulsion to like murder people. He said, when he was at the court, and the judge asked him, why did you murder all these people? What was your motive? He's like, I just felt like doing it. He's like, why is a poet like doing poetry?
Yeah.
And just like to do poetry, just like I like to kill.
Yeah, he was still going up for any kind of.
He was a creeper.
Yeah, he was a creeper.
But what was interesting is when they hanged him, everybody that was at the court, all the jurors, all the prosecutors, most of these people ended up dying strange deaths.
Yeah.
Who got heart attacks, who got into accidents. The one, I think, detective, his office burned down to the ground, and nobody could trace as to how the fire got started. And everything got incinerated except for, get this one, a picture of the serial killer, Holmes. Nothing else survived the office being torched. Only that survived, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is strange.
So maybe there is something poltergeist-like behind what he was doing. It's an interesting theory. Something to take into consideration.
And does Jeff Mudgett sometimes have that Jekyll and Hyde situation? I wonder how he deals with that. It's some crazy stuff for sure. I think we all deal with it on some level, but if you're dumb enough to give into it and go with it, then that's where you're going to get in trouble. If I, listened to every voice I had, I'd be a berserker and starting some weird UFO cult and bringing on the apocalypse. But no, I let logic prevail.
Logic, common sense, and survival instinct.
I ain't going to jail, that's for sure. And then, of course, there's always the fear it sets you back, and you're going to have to come back here and not go to your alien utopia after you croak. So that's enough.
But Jeff, look at a lot of serial killers. Look at a lot of mass murderers. They end up going psychotic anyhow. They end up getting caught, or they end up doing something to greatly harm themselves. They get murdered by someone else. I mean, you look at look, for example, you read about Stalin. You read about a lot of the secret police that worked for him. A lot of them were very selfish men. They're all for power, all for greed. They didn't care about who they harmed. And they ended up, it became a dog-eat-dog world. They ended up preying upon one another. So, it comes a point where your serial killing ways eventually go after you. What goes around comes around.
Yeah, it catches up with you for sure. And I know I've heard one of those ghost dudes. I don't really watch much of those ghost shows, but Zach Baggins or something. He said something about those locations where there are serial killers, that something like a similar thing like the Skinwalker thing, that if you kill somebody, you're in the army of the devil and weird stuff like that. I've heard that come up with that kind of stuff too. And who knows unless you're in the situation. People have theories about everything, but it's kind of similar to the Skinwalker thing for sure, which is still very creepy. But I'm looking forward to that Devil in the White City. I think it's going to, Hulu by Scorsese. I hope so. There's also a talk, and I haven't seen anything else about it, and it had something to do with Charlie Hunnam, the guy from Sons of Anarchy and stuff, and Brad Pitt's production company, but a Vlad the Impaler movie that's supposed to be like Braveheart with no fantasy elements in it. And years ago, they buzzed about it, but I haven't seen anything else about it. Someone wrote the script. It may have been Hunnam. I'm not 100% sure, but I know he's connected to it time. But I haven't seen anything else about that movie. But they said they're wanting to make a Vlad movie that was strictly Vlad and no fantasy. I hope they do it one day. Then they were saying, was Brad Pitt going to play Vlad, which maybe he could pull it off. I don't know, but it's just funny. He could do it, I guess.
I don't see Brad Pitt being able to.
Yeah, I know.
I don't.
Yeah, maybe back in the day. I don't know. Who knows? Who could pull it off? I don't know if it'd be a hard one for sure.
Maybe Jack Nicholson.
I don't think he's going back to that.
If he could pull off the Joker with such amazing talent, there's no reason why he can't play any crazy historical person.
The problem is now he's not doing anything because they say memory issues possibly, which is sad.
He's
that sucks. The same thing with Bruce Willis, which I don't know. I don't think Bruce Willis can do stuff anymore.
He's got a condition, though.
What about Gilbert Gottfried? Come on.
Yeah.
Louis Anderson, Gilbert Gottfried, Bob Saget, which I wasn't into Bob Saget or anything, but I like Louis Anderson and Baskets and Gilbert Gottfried. It's just sad.
That is sad.
Everything's going to crap.
He was the original Aflac Duck.
Yeah, it was sad.
He was also the parrot in Aladdin. He played in My Problem Child. He was a great actor.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Well, Dave, we got to close out. Give us your link real quick. And it's been great having you on for sure. The return of Dave.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's the Paralytical channel.
All right.
Go on YouTube and just type it up.
And or type in Bram Stoker and the Occult.
Yep.
All right. Well, keep us in the loop, and we appreciate it. It's been a great show. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. All right. You guys take care.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend. Happy Easter.
All right. Thank you. You guys too.
Get those Cadbury eggs. All right. Night, everybody.
All right. Night.